the way you can change is you have to put aside enough money to give yourself a window. And then you have to have a plan, and you have to spend all your waking hours outside of whatever shit job you do planning your escape. And you have to come to the realization very clearly that you fucked up and you got yourself stuck. So whatever you're doing, you have to do it like your life depends on it.
No, I don't want no scrubs, a girl that can't get no love from me. Sitting in the passenger side of her best friend's ride, try to holler at me. Baby girl, you stay on my mind, fulfill my fantasy. Tell me how you feel, I think about you all the time. You see it in my dreams. Yes! Baby, I don't need dollar bills to have fun tonight. I love you, girl. Baby, I don't need dollar bills to have fun tonight. I love you, girl. So rockabye, baby, rockabye. I'm gonna rock you, rockabye, baby. Don't you cry. No, well, Monday where the time cold. I wanna be keeping you warm. I got the right temperature to shelter you from the storm. So please have mercy on me and take it easy on my heart. Like controller. 'Cause all we need is somebody to lean on. Girl, you're my angel, you're my darling angel. She caught me on the counter, it wasn't me. Saw me banging on the sofa. 'Cause I've been up all night, no sleep. 'Cause I feel like I'm always dreaming. Oh, do you love? And are you sure? 'Cause you make me feel like I've been locked out of heaven. If I lay here, if I just lay here, would you lie with me and just forget the world? So wake me up before I go. Don't leave me hanging on like a yo-yo. Jealousy sinks into the sea, but it's just the price I pay. Destiny is calling me. I'm in love with the shape of you. We push and pull like a magnet. Although my heart is falling too. I'm in love with your body. And last night you were in my room. And now I bet you smell like you. Every day discovering something brand new. I'm in love with the shape of you. I'm in love with the go-go.
Yeah, I gotta figure out how to mute these jokers. Mute. Alpha 3 is back. Yes. Yes. Alpha 3 is juiced up. Yes, sir. The proper number 12 is deep into the DNA. Thank you very much. Yes. While the rest of New Jersey is getting high on their own supply, while they're getting all doped up on the icky, sticky, the weed, the whatever else you want to call it, Alpha 3 is gonna stick to the proper number 12, an Irish whiskey, a real whiskey, a fighter's whiskey, unlike that trash, that garbage that they try to pawn off down there in Kentucky and Tennessee. You want a real whiskey? Go to Ireland, get yourself some 12. Anyway, I want to thank my sister. She gave me this. This is my new pointer. I can point things out and then put the pointer there, right? And then I got the middle finger for you cunts, for you New Jersey Department of Corrections downtown cunts, right? And you too, Phil Murphy. Operation Fuck Phil Murphy's still in effect. But yes, let's go over these recent events, these current events. We'll say that the Philadelphia Football Eagles are in first place, undefeated, as they should be. Then in second place, you got the Arlington Cowboys, because of course, the East Rutherford Giants, they couldn't get the job done. They came up short. They did what they always do, which is roll over and show their underbelly in front of their distasteful fans like that cunt Taz. And then, of course, in last place, as we all know they would be, is the Maryland, Virginia, USC, Washington They got so many names I can't even figure it out. So life is good. Life is real good in the Philadelphia arena. Yes. So I got a quick story. I had a couple quick stories for you about these stupid shits in the DOC, because I did promise to keep the dream alive with all the stories in the DOC. So I got a couple of them, but one is about that cunt Administrator Barnes. This was told to me, right? I wasn't there. This didn't happen to me, but for whatever reason, people always come to me and give me the intel. I'm like the spider in Game of Thrones. I'm like the spider. I'm like, what's his name? Peter Baelish. Yes, the Mockingbird from Game of Thrones. That's what everybody comes to me with information. But this story was told to me by a sergeant. He was the North. When he left, he was the North Compound sergeant. I don't want to give. If you work for the Department of Correction currently, right? I don't know why you still are. Right? You should have a game plan. But I know some game plans take a few years. Like my game plan took a couple of years to come to fruition. But if you plan on staying there, whatever, I don't know why. I don't know why you're letting the governor shoot you up with all kinds of illegal inoculations and poisons and stuff like that, and penetrating your butt cheeks, and you're just taking it. You're just taking it like a good little slave that you are. But anyway, so the story goes like this: like this cunt Administrator Barnes was a sergeant. He was the West Compound sergeant. Right now, some of you may not understand that, but the people that are at New Jersey State Prison, they understand it. But he was the I want to say he was the Area 4 sergeant, and it was like 155,000 degrees in the rotunda, and at the time you were only allowed to bring in 2 16-ounce bottles of water, right? And so with these dumb shits that always try to push up on you and try to prove to you that they're right and try to flex their authority when they really don't need to have to. He had 3 bottles. He had 3 bottles of 16-ounce bottles of water, right? Which technically he's not supposed to have. But what is the guy supposed to do? It's 130 to 50,000 degrees in the West Compound, and he was working 7 wing, right? He was working 7 wing, and so he walks through. Now there's a door. There's a door that separates, like a sally port that separates the north-south compound from the west compound. So he's walking up the ramp. There's like a ramp, and he goes through the 2 doors, and on the left is where the podium's at, where the Area 4 sergeant stays, right? So that's where this cunt Administrator Barnes, at the time he was Sergeant Barnes, right? So he walks through with 3 bottles of 16-ounce waters, and he stops this particular sergeant. At the time he was an officer, but he's a sergeant now. He may be a lieutenant, but at the time he was an officer, so he stops this guy. By the way, to describe this guy, he's like one of those, he's like the Italian Jersey Shore beefcakes, one of those Buffy lunks from the gym. Like, he's gonna laugh at this, right? I hope he laughs at this, but he knows I love him. But so anyway, he goes through there, right? And this cunt Barnes sees him with the bottles of water, right? And he's like, Barnes stops him. He's like, oh, you're only supposed to have 2 bottles of water, right? These are the type of stupid shits that we have to deal with in the park, just making people's days miserable, right? He's like, you're only supposed to have 2 bottles of water in the rotunda, and he's like, so this particular officer slash sergeant slash maybe lieutenant says, I understand that, Sergeant, but you do know it's 130 degrees in the rotunda in the West Compound, and the last thing anybody wants is for me to pass out from dehydration, right? He tries to explain to the guy, but that's not good enough, right? Talking common sense and critical thinking to these dopes, these assholes, these morons isn't good enough. And like, no, I need to be right. You're only, yeah, I get I'm only supposed to have 2, but understand the totality of the circumstances, right? So he's like, you know what? You're right, Sergeant Barnes. You're right. So he takes the 3rd bottle, he opens it up, and he holds it like 10 feet over his face, and he tries to drink it all to get rid of it. Like, he just makes a mess all over himself, which was great. And he just stands there in front of Barnes like, are you happy now? Did I just make your fucking day? So, that's the type of stupid morality that goes on at it. Moronity. Is it moronity? How do you say it? That's a new word I made up, just like Just like all the other dumbass words I make up, but moronity that goes on in the gym. Like, what was that word? What was that word that I made up that I use all the time? I forget. It'll come to me later. Anyway, so that's funny, right? So he just totally made the fucking sergeant look like an asshole. But the other story is I used to work at CRAF, right? CRAF stands for, it's a receiving prison, right? So the guys that come from county that and are being administered to the state, right? They go to CRAF first to get all their shit together, right? And then at that point, they figure out what they're going to do with them, and then they send them to the real prisons. But the funny thing is about the CRAF officers, they always say they're from Trenton, right? And there's only one real fucking prison in Trenton, which is New Jersey State Prison, right? So when they get pulled over and stuff like that, or they talk to people like, oh, you're a correction officer? Oh, yes, I am. Oh, what prison do you work at? I work in Trenton, right? Well, technically, CRAF is in Trenton, but they're trying to push it off and try to be tough guys and make themselves look like big men and women because there's only one real prison in Trenton. So you know where I'm going with this. So anyway, so these dumbass CRAF officers try to act like they're badasses, that they work in the big house, but they really don't. They work in CRAF. CRAF is a joke. But anyway, so my first couple of years in the Department of Corrections, I got assigned to CRAF, right? But the problem was, and nothing goes on in CRAF, absolutely nothing. This is like nothing goes on. It's so weak, right? So they're like the lowest of lowest classified inmates, like the, because you're in charge of Jones Farms, and Jones Farms are the guys you see on the highway cleaning up the highway, right? So that's what type of prison is. Like, nothing happens, right? So anyway, the problem was I was assigned to CRAF, but the problem was I had just gotten back from the Gulf, from the Persian Gulf. So I was like out of my mind, Marine Corps, like all hardcore and shit, taking shit way too seriously, right? So there was this fat shit that worked over at Jones Farms, but the people know who he was. The people know that I'm talking about know who he was. I forgot what his name was, but he was a fat piece of shit. But the rumor was that this fucking clown was up on a tree branch, and he was standing on the tree branch, and he cut the side of the tree that's closest to the stump off, and which he was standing on the branch that he was cutting, and he fell down and broke his arms. I don't know if that's real or not, but that's the rumor. Allegedly he did that because he was walking around with like a brace on or something like that, but he was a fucking idiot. But he hated rookies, and at the time I was a rookie, so he naturally hated me, right, for no apparent reason, right? So anyway, they would run like mess movements and shit like that, and when you run a mess movement, typically you have officers there watching the shit going on. But at CRAF, you don't really have to, because the inmates they're not looking for any problems, right? They're trying to go home. They only have like less than 2 years, or less than a year to do. Like most of these guys are just, all right, I'm gonna just do my time and go home and get the fuck out of here and never think of this place again. So nothing happens at Jones Farm. Maybe like a guy like twist his ankle or some shit like that. But so the mess movement has started, and I was off doing something. I don't know. So he wasted my time. But when you call somebody on the radio, everybody hears it. So he was wasting everybody's time by calling me on the radio. I forgot what I was doing at the time, but I was like, go. He's like, Officer Rodriguez, this is Sergeant Shitbag. Right, so I'm like, oh, okay, go. This is Officer Rodriguez. And he's like, oh, I need you over here. He's like yelling on the radio like an asshole. I need you over here for the mess movement. So I go over there. Like, so now you just started a war with Alpha 3. Because I'm thinking it's an emergency, but I really don't. But I'm playing like it's an emergency. So anyway, so I sprint over to the area where he needs me, which is like a unit, right? So on this particular unit, right, you have the door, right? So the door is about as wide as this, right? And then, let me lower this down a little bit. All right, so the door to go to the mess hall is about as wide as this, right? So on the other side is where the inmates sleep. It's like 100 inmates, right? And they have to go through the door to get to the mess hall. So what they would do is that the inmates would be called out to mess. They would go through the door, right? Then make a right turn into the mess hall, right? So this guy, this fucking stupid jackass sergeant, who was screaming on the radio like he was being attacked by an elephant in his asshole, right? Calling me over there like he absolutely needs me when he didn't. I sprint over there, and I stand at fucking parade rest, right? I stand at parade rest right in the middle of the fucking doorway, right? So I'm over here like this, standing like this, right? So the guy's watching me, this dumbass sergeant's watching me with this other officer who works a different unit, they're watching me. So I'm standing there like this at parade rest, like a Marine, a psycho Marine, holding a sentry box, right? So I'm standing there at parade rest. I only give the inmates maybe maybe a foot. Like a foot on each side to get by me, but they know I'm unhinged. They know they better not fucking touch me. That's a rule. Like, if you touch an officer, it's on at that point. Like, if you have the balls, you might as well go all in and fight the guy, because you are gonna get locked up. Never ever touch an officer, right? So I purposely stand there at parade rest, right, with my elbows extended out, right? And then I'm watching into the unit, right? So then you had, for like a half an hour, you had inmates trying to creep behind, like trying to slick behind me, right? So they don't touch my elbows, because at the time I just got back from the Gulf and I was unhinged, right? So they're all like trying to get by me, and I was like 100 inmates going to mess, like 80 inmates trying to go to mess, trying to get around me like this, like sidestepping and shit, so they don't touch me. So about a half an hour of this fucking stupid ass, fat, fucking overweight, stupid shitbag sergeant, after a half an hour of observing me, just standing there, lock fucking step, not even moving, barely even breathing, and inmates trying to get by me, finally he just walked off, he stepped off, he's like, "Officer Rodriguez, I need you in the area. I don't need you right there by the door." So I just look back at him, right? So he says that, right? He says that to old Alpha 3, right? So he says that, and I look back like this out of the corner of my eye, like, "Roger that, Sergeant." And I just cock back forward, and I stand there for the whole mess for like an hour, right? Don't even fucking move. So that's how you treat these dumbasses. That's how you have to act, right? They take you out of their skin. They try to make a big fucking deal out of nothing, right? It's not a big deal, right? Relax, all right? You have to know the totality of the circumstances, so fucking relax. All right, so needless to say, the sergeant never messed with me again, because he was like, this guy is completely out of his fucking gourd, right? So that was pretty funny, but I had a reputation amongst the department of just doing outrageous stuff, just challenging people. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do, punk? So that was just one of the stories. That's one of the thousands of stories that but I wasn't being serious. I was acting like I was being serious, but I was just amusing myself. I was inside, outwardly, right? I was like, right? But inwardly, I'm just giggling like, look at this stupid ass. He probably thinks I'm totally serious, but I'm embarrassing him. I'm making him feel like a stupid ass for over. If you want to get on the radio and exaggerate and just blow shit out of proportion, turn a fucking mold into a, what is that, a mound into a mountain, like, what is that fucking thing, then I'm gonna do the same. You understand? If you're gonna act like a stupid ass and try to make a big deal about some shit, then I'm gonna exaggerate my behavior and I'm gonna show you. All right, so anyway, those stupid cunts downtown, the stupid asses downtown are figuring that out right now. Do you want to make a big deal? This is stupid shit. Do you want to make a big deal about an anonymous? I'm not letting it go. I'm living good right now, right? But I'm not going to let it go, because your dumb ass is downtown. If you're going to have an anonymous complainer about Alpha 3 and his fucking YouTubes, then I'm going to give you a goddamn reason. All right? And to the rest of you, there's a reason why there's people leaving the department. I get text messages all the time. If anybody wants any advice on how to get the fuck out of there cleanly, right, and live your life, do things that you love, DM me. I'll show you I'll give you the fucking deal. Anyway, I want to thank my sister for giving me this. By the way, I forgot to use it. By the way, Department of Corrections, this is the side. Don't forget about this side. It's going to be this side for you cunts. And you too, Phil Murphy, you stupid ass. By the way, Florida, I haven't forgotten that you were supposed to make a big time deal. We were supposed to take your governor, that sheriff from Polk County. We're supposed to, and you're supposed to have all the garbage that seeps around here of this liberal trash, Democratic retarded trash that goes on up here. All right, we're coming to take that lake. We're coming to take your oranges. We're coming to take. You can have Disneyland, because Disneyland is a breeding ground for perverts and pedophiles. But you can have that. All right, but we're coming to take Tallahassee from you. We're coming to take Miami from you. We're coming to take all the Keys from you, and you can have that. You can have the Jersey Shore. You can have the boardwalks and all that. You can have pork roll or Taylor ham. Yeah, take Taylor ham. We'll keep the pork roll. You take the Taylor ham. All right. You can also take everything west of Harrisburg to include Harrisburg. All right. Anyway, this is going on long enough. I didn't mean for this video to go on long enough, but the proper number 12 is rearranging my DNA. So Alpha 3 is out now. Send it.